and we are welcoming back to the show this time Miss Veda Scott.
God, it's been a while since we've had Veda on the show.
Yeah, we were looking back. It was early 2012, and according to Cage Match, I think I had a look, she had possibly as little as 15 matches when she was on the show last. She's had quite a few more since then.
Yeah, she's done quite a bit, which is why we've got her back.
Yeah, and specifically, I mean, we'll talk about this hopefully with her when she comes on, but very specifically, we got to talk about the Battle of the Sexes show that's coming up with AIW. It's not this weekend, but next weekend as we record this. It's going to be the 26th.
That's right.
July. Yes, that's right. 26th. Saturday, the 26th of July in Cleveland. There's a whole bunch of matches, but it's headlined by Veda Scott versus Gregory Iron in a steel cage match.
Yeah, so we've got to ask her about that. We've got to ask her about just the storyline and stuff, and just AIW in general, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's probably fair to call that her home promotion. But actually, I mean, while we're here, I mean, let's run down just a few of the other matches on the Battle of the Sexes show. Intergender wrestling is one of those hot button subjects amongst wrestling fans in general, let alone women's wrestling fans. But if this is up your alley, this is a show that you need to get to, or you need to purchase on demand as soon as it's available. Not only have we got Greg Iron versus Veda Scott, we've got the intense champion Davey Vega against Jasmine in an intense title match.
So also in action, we've got the AIW Women's Champion Athena, who's going against Lewis Linden.
Yeah, that's if Athena's still the champion, because there's an afternoon show.
That's true.
Athena is going to be defending her belt against Heidi Lovelace. Heidi's on this show as well, actually. She will be taking on BJ Whitmer.
Yeah, Ricky Shane Page is going up against someone who we quite like at Ring Bells, Kimberly.
Yes, I will talk to you about that in 1 second. But also on the show, Eddie Kingston, the true last of a dying breed, no matter what Bull Dempsey on NXT will tell you. He's going to take on Silesia Sparks.
In a match where it's just #Sparks on the poster.
Well, yes, indeed.
For various reasons, which we probably don't need to go into. Okay, just rounding off the card then, we've got Angel Dust. She's going to be taking on Bobby Beverly. Who else have we got going on here? We've got Hanaya the Howling Huntress, who's going to be facing Colin Delaney. And finally, we've got Jenny Rose on the card as well. She's going to be taking on Tyson Dukes.
Going back to Kimberly, I want to actually mention something that you mentioned on Twitter a couple of days ago, or I think it was possibly even... Yeah, it
was a couple of days ago.
It was recently, when the Beyond Wrestling Tournament for Tomorrow match between Kimberly and JT Dunn was released by Beyond. It's on YouTube. You need to check it out. And when I say you need to check it out, you need to check it out.
Oh, it's imperative.
It's a fantastic match. And you actually came to the conclusion after watching it that Kimberly is the best intergender wrestler in the world.
You know, I can't think of any others that would... I could probably throw that name with. Maybe Candice LeRae, perhaps?
She's up there.
Yeah.
Heidi Lovelace is up there.
Yeah, Heidi will be up there as well, definitely. But I just think with Kimberly, I think she kind of... I don't know necessarily what it is. Maybe it's because she's quite impactful in her wrestling style. It just kind of works.
Christ, some of those shots against JT Dunn.
They were quite hard.
Yeah. Can I also point out, by the way, not to be sexist about it, but if we're talking about great intergender wrestlers... the male equivalent of that for me is probably Chris Dickinson.
I was just about to say.
Which actually, your tweet at the time reminded me, has Kimberly ever fought Chris Dickinson?
Off the top of my head, I don't think so, but I could be wrong.
I haven't seen if it's happened, but if it hasn't happened, can someone make this happen?
And if it has happened, can someone direct us to how we can see it?
Both of the above, please, yeah. I imagine that would be really rather good.
Yeah, the thing about intergender wrestling is you've just got to treat it right. I mean, you treat it in the same way you treat a big wrestler versus a small wrestler match, or a fast wrestler versus a strong wrestler match. You make it play to both people's strengths and everything works out just fine.
Indeed. You know, the thing about intergender wrestling, I mean, you're talking about, making it play to both people's strengths. The interesting thing is that for different people, that's going to be different ways of wrestling. Like, for example, the way Kimberly takes on a guy is quite different to the way Heidi Lovelace will take on a guy.
Yeah.
It's quite different to the way Angel Dust will take on a guy, for example. So it's going to be interesting just when you've got a whole bunch of matches. They're all singles matches. They're all man versus woman. It's going to be interesting just to see the different approaches that each of these sort of duos take to doing the match. Because, there are a few different ways you can play it.
if you forgive the clunky comparison here, it's kind of like TNA Lockdown.
Oh,
yes, all the matches are in a cage. It's up to you to kind of make those cage matches different.
Fine.
I told you it was clunky.
Yeah, I know. Fine. All right, cool. I'll take that point, and we'll move on. Do you want to move on to the big time? Just to move away from TNA, that sounds horrible. let's move on to the big time. And I just wanted to mention something that you brought up to me before we started recording, and it was to do with WWE and the fact that Charlotte and Natalia's match, NXT Takeover, had come second in it's either a poll or a listing.
I'd say it's a list.
A list of the best WWE matches of the first 6 months of the year.
Yeah, it's done by WWE.com, so, you can kind of take that as to how you want to. Maybe they've done it because of how they want to push these matches. It's not exactly fan-voted, I believe. But what that means...
It's not the universe, is what you're saying.
It's not the universe. But what it means is that this match, Natalya versus Charlotte, is, according to WWE.com, the best singles match on WWE TV this year.
I guess.
Bear that in mind.
Because number one on the list was...
Shield versus Wyatt's from Elimination Chamber, which admittedly was great.
Yeah, it was. And may well be the best match of the last 6 months in WWE. But that was on pay-per-view. So yeah, you're right. If you take the network as TV, or what's TV around the rest of the world, it's certainly caught a lot of people's attention, and it continues to.
I think it's one of those ones that if you haven't seen Natalya v Charlotte yet, go out of your way to watch it.
Yeah, there's a good enough reason to sign up for the network, I guess. There's plenty of other reasons on there, but you can certainly go and check that out on demand. And look, Charlotte, along with Sasha Banks, actually debuted on the main roster for an MSG house show last weekend.
Yeah, I think it's quite an auspicious way to make your sort of main roster introduction. I wouldn't necessarily call it a debut, because that wouldn't happen really until TV, but an introduction.
Yeah, right, fine, yeah. But her first match on the main roster as a part of a main WWE show that people are paying for, and in the world's most famous arena, as they call it.
Yeah, and that's the thing about Madison Square Garden. Okay, WWE doesn't do so many shows anymore, but when they do happen, they are important.
Yeah, and they did some other shows on that sort of house show loop as well. But the question is, are they bringing up Sasha and Charlotte, or even just Charlotte, to TV shortly? I think the general consensus is, if they do, it's too soon. Yeah,
I hope not. Not necessarily because I'm being harsh, but because I think for Charlotte's sake, I think it would be too soon to be putting her on the road and having those kind of matches all the time. Yes, she's got a natural ability, and yes, she is good for the position that she's in. She's only been made a debut about a year ago, but I think she needs a bit more time and a bit more seasoning just to make sure these things become a reflex, rather than having to kind of think through them and them being slightly mechanical.
Yeah, although by comparison, I would say Sasha Banks would easily find a nice spot on the roster. I thought it was funny that we've just seen Layla and Summer Rae sort of get together in what some people are talking about, and may well turn out to be a kind of a Lay Cool version too. Where you could have, if you wanted, probably a better version of the Mean Girls by just having Charlotte and Sasha.
I must point out at this point that as far as continuity is concerned, them teaming up makes absolutely no sense, since they had a sort of semi-amicable split on NXT a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, semi-amicable is definitely one of the words you could use. It doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things, I suppose, but...
hey, continuity is everything.
It's not like the old days when Jim Cornette would have people pulled off his TV in 1 week and put on TV as brothers when they were having a blood feud on OVW television. It's not quite as bad as that.
Hello, Doug Basham.
Oh, God, where's Doug Basham these days? I miss him.
He had all the enthusiasm kicked out of him.
Yeah, he and Damager. But anyway, good days, good times. WWE, they're pushing women now. Well,
quite a lot.
When I say pushing, they're featuring women, shall we say. Let's not over-egg the pudding. They're featuring women. We've got a whole bunch of different women in actual, proper, legitimate storylines.
Yeah, and different storylines.
Yeah, well, we talked about this, and you wrote about it in the roundup last week, but yeah, we've got sort of 4 different storylines featuring women, and I mean, at the last pay-per-view, we had 2 women's matches. At this pay-per-view this weekend, Battleground, we have again 2 women's matches, albeit the Funkadactyls explode on the pre-show, but, it's still on the show, essentially.
Which is still on the network. You can't watch it on YouTube or anything like that. It's still on the network.
Yeah, it's essentially a 3.5-hour show.
Yeah, so I think, Naomi v. Cameron, yes, okay, you got the background and the story to it and all that kind of thing, but I don't think it's necessarily going to be much of a match. The one that you really got to keep an eye out for is AJ versus Paige for the Divas title on the show, and I'm just praying they don't put it in a death slot. Because last time, on the last pay-per-view, they didn't put that in the death slot because they put Layla versus Summer Rae in the death slot, and it lived up to all of its hype. And the fact that you had Paige versus Naomi earlier on in the card when the crowd wasn't burnt out really helped with the match, and I hope they do it again.
Yeah, I hope so too, although I'm not sure what would be the death slot match if it's not Paige and AJ.
That's a scary thought, though, isn't it?
Yeah, well, welcome back to WWE.
It shouldn't just be that, the women's match is the default match that everybody is brought back down. I think that's unfair.
That is unfortunately the way that the wrestling fans have been trained over the years.
Yes, it is, and I'm just looking through the card right now, and unfortunately, you might have a point.
Yeah, the only possible thing that you could put in a death slot, and this actually doesn't deserve to be in a death slot either, but you could potentially put the short match of Swagger versus Rusev on a death slot, but they've been getting fantastic reactions, and they do not deserve that either.
I think that one might be slightly dampened down based on real-life actions over the past few days.
Well, yeah, possibly. So yeah, there's... Yeah, it's going to be in the death match, isn't it? But let's hope they have a good match all the same.
Yeah, I think you've got to judge it necessarily for what it is rather than, what it's not.
Prediction for this one?
AJ wins.
That's the default answer for every WWE pay-per-view for the last 2 years.
It's a reflex.
Yeah, I think you're right. But I think Paige will have her official proper heel turn.
Yeah,
or at least her coming out as a heel rather than the frenemies thing.
Yeah, I've already seen SmackDown this week in their match, and the little bit of tease tension at the end of the match, it's just really nice. It's really subtle. It picks up well on TV.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, we shall see. I tend to agree. I think Paige to have a proper coming out part as a heel, and this match to be rematched at SummerSlam.
Oh, definitely. So this is the beginning. It's not the end.
Oh God, no. So with that said, let's take the opportunity to draw this conversation to a close, and let's talk again about our guest, Veda Scott, who, as we said earlier, next weekend at AIW's Battle of the Sexes will be taking on Greg Iron. We're very happy to welcome back to the Women of Wrestling podcast someone who we spoke to last back in 2012, where at the time we spoke to her, she had barely over a dozen matches in her career. A couple of years later, we're very pleased to welcome back the very successful Veda Scott to the podcast. Veda, welcome.
Hello.
How's it going? How are things now that you're a fully fledged, grizzled veteran of the independent wrestling scene?
I think I'm very far from that, but things are doing all right.
God, just trying to make it sound good, trying to make it sound impressive. But hey, you did win a PWI Rookie of the Year award back in 2012. So
yeah, that was wild.
That's pretty cool to me, even though it's...
Was it really 2012 I last talked to you?
It was, yeah.
Oh.
Well, officially, anyway. Yeah. So that's quite a long time ago. But, looking back now over the last couple of years, are you... do you think you've sort of got further than you thought you'd get in a short time? Or, I mean, how's your career going from how you thought it was going to be when you started?
I honestly think I went into this with virtually no expectations, except I want to be a wrestler. And so that sort of allowed me to kind of, I think, have a lot more freedom maybe than I would have if I would have had like a very specific goal in mind. So I'm kind of just, exploring different opportunities and seeing what's happening and being open to anything. So from that perspective, I feel like I'm doing okay. I think if I had like very specific goals in mind, in particular, like maybe I would or would not have achieved them. I don't necessarily. So within that like very broad spectrum of like expectations, I'm doing okay.
So you've achieved the goal of being a professional wrestler, so that's pretty cool. Well, look, the main reason we've got you on the show, and we're going to talk about a lot of stuff that you've done in the last couple of years, but the main reason we've got you on the show now specifically is to talk about the fact that you have a really big match coming up July 26th at AIW's Battle of the Sexes show, where you're going to be part of the main event.
Yes.
And this is going to be inside the confines of a 15-foot-high steel cage.
Which is pink at AIW.
It is. You're right. Yeah.
Not for this match in particular, but it is pink. It is a pink steel cage.
In general, yeah. And it's going to be against a gentleman by the name of Gregory Iron.
Yes.
Now, for those people listening to the show who've seen you wrestle elsewhere, or maybe aren't too up to date with what you've been up to in AIW, or maybe don't even know much about who Greg Iron is. This has been a storyline that's been going on for a long time. This is a soap opera of a storyline. Can you give a potted history of what exactly is going on here and why people should pay money to see you kick his ass in a steel cage?
Right. Well, I think the essential background information on this actually is to start to explain Greg Iron. As most people know, he is legitimately handicapped. I mean, I don't know if you can be illegitimately handicapped, but he is.
That's a good point.
And so he's been able to make a pro wrestling career out of having some issues in terms of mobility and disability with one of his arms. And just in general, like he's overcome an incredible amount of adversity in order to do this at all. And that's completely legitimate. And for years and years and years, he was the handicap hero. People looked up to him. He was just a really inspirational figure, particularly in the Cleveland, Ohio area, which is his hometown. Like just this hugely popular, just inspirational figure. Everyone loved him. And then in AIW, he started to become disgruntled with the fact that he was not receiving opportunities that he felt that he should be receiving, again, because he is sort of the homegrown hometown hero. So this is where our affiliation came together. I was new to AIW at the time as well, and using my legal background, we sort of formed this partnership where we would manage each other in matches, and I was also his legal representative, and we were able to get management there to institute a 4-count, meaning that Greg Iron could only be beaten by a 4-count in order to rectify the to rectify the unfairness of his disability.
It's literally a handicap, yeah.
Yes, it is a handicap. So the point being that after years and years and years of being this just beloved hero, the fans turned on him, were booing him out of the building, and he was just a complete asshole about it because that's who he is. Time went on. We became the tag team champions in AIW. We started to wrestle as a tag team as well as having our own singles matches. That went on for a while. And eventually this team broke up through a series of misunderstandings. I don't want to go through the whole history, but it's essential to understand that Greg Iron, his history in Cleveland is not as a bad guy. It's as a good guy. Then this team broke up, and it turned out that although Greg Iron and I explicitly say this, never had any sort of romantic affiliation, he seems to have misunderstood that. And it's turned into this sort of obsessive pursuit of me, I guess you would say. However, he has a security force with him, his Iron Curtain. It's anywhere between 4 and 5 gentlemen, depending on the night, who back him up, and they're very large. So we've been going at it for now, I guess, a series of the actual like moment where we completely broke up was, I would say, 6 months ago or so. So it's been an ongoing thing. There's been blood, there's been weapons. But we had never had a one-on-one match until last month at Absolution. And then it ended up not being a one-on-one match at all because his Iron Curtain guys kept interfering. And what ended up happening at the end of the match was I was attempting to strike Greg Iron with a chair, and a referee got in the way, knocked the referee out. And then when he came to about 5 minutes later, Gregory Iron was tapping out to one of my submissions, but the referee reversed the decision because the slight detail of, yes, I had hit him with a chair, technically. However, that has led to this cage match to keep the Iron Curtain out, and that's where we are now.
I mean, it's a very intricate feud that we're talking about here, and the fact that it's had a chance to resonate and to really sort of stew with people in AIW, I guess has brought it to the point where it is justified in being this steel cage match in a main event. You've took your time with it, and now here's the big payoff.
Right, and it's had a lot of ups and downs to it, I think, too, that AIW has just taken time to develop in terms of like changes to how I portray myself and changes to how the crowd responds to me, changes to how like the style of matches that we've started to have, and just the level of violence has escalated an awful lot. There's the intergender aspect of it, of course, but in AIW, for the most part, men and women fight each other. When Greg and I were the tag champions, we fought men all the time. So that's not so much the story, except for the fact that we are a man and a woman, and his understanding of this relationship is a little bit different than mine. So that has become a factor.
It's a very thin line between love and hate when it comes to Greg Iron, isn't it?
Yes, apparently. We're doing this cage match, so it could be pretty brutal, I think.
Unfortunately, Greg's game just wasn't on point with you. He tried to let you know how much he felt for you, and he went so far as to propose marriage, or at least look like he was going to do that. Just wasn't working, was it?
No, and he's become a purveyor of bit strips on the internet. He got really into that for a while. Assorted other e-cards and pictures. Now recently he's taken to photoshopping. In our last match, he had me by the hair when I was attempting to rouse the referee, and was dragging me by the hair. And I kissed him. In the heat of the moment, I thought that was the best distractionary tactic. And then I dumped him on his head and he tapped out. But there's a photograph of us making out in the middle of the ring, and he has taken to photoshopping that into various other situations. So he spends an awful lot of time on this.
Yeah, it's a beautiful moment. Less of a beautiful moment though was the. Was the bit where you guys, like, I guess what you were referring to earlier when you said that you had your split. There's a video on YouTube, and we'll link up to people if they want to go and have a look. It's not suitable for those with a weak disposition, shall we say, where he bludgeoned the hell out of you. You bled all over the place. You were wearing the proverbial crimson mask.
I feel like I'm trying to remember the exact timeline of events. I think we had broken up quite a bit before that. This was during AIW every year does a gauntlet. They call it the gauntlet for the gold. It's a Royal Rumble style battle royal, and the winner gets a title shot at Absolution. So Greg and I were entrants 1 and 2, of course, and that devolved really quickly. And at my bad luck, I was able to eliminate Greg right away. But then entrants like 3 through 5 were his Iron Curtain guys. So I had to deal with that, and then Gregory appeared.
What are the odds of that happening, eh?
I know. And then Gregory appeared with a beer bottle, which he smashed over my head pretty early on, and then for the next couple entrants, it was all about that. So yeah, it was an awful lot of blood.
Yeah, I think it made for some really graphic photos when it first came out, and you look at it, and I think it kind of polarizes opinion as to, I don't know, wrestling, intergender, blood.
Oh, it certainly does.
Kind of thing. And I think it was one of those situations where I think you look at that photo and everybody had an opinion.
Absolutely. I mean, I certainly heard everyone's opinions about it for the next. Still hearing opinions about that.
I mean, what are the sort of things that you've heard?
There's some people who, in general, are not comfortable with any sort of violence against women when it comes to. I don't even know if they would be all right with it if it was female on female. Like, some people don't like to see women in violent situations, even wrestling fans, which I completely disagree with. And then other people don't like to see blood at all in wrestling. Like, that's a whole other like aspect of it too. Like, outside of the intergender perspective, a lot of people just are completely against blood. Blood makes them uncomfortable. The implications of blood and the dangers of blood in wrestling, they don't want anything to do with it. Then you combine blood with a woman in an intergender situation. I'm a little bit smaller than others. That was an aspect, like I think it's sort of this uncomfortable topic of like, okay, well, what are you saying? Like if I looked a different way, it'd be okay. But because I look in a certain way, like that makes you uncomfortable. Like people with a certain aesthetic, like you don't want to see them get, their hands dirty. Like it's just, it opened up a lot of I think it opened up a lot of dialogue, but it also made a lot of people's, prejudices and ideas sort of come out. And, people have always been supportive of me and of my decisions. But I think in this situation, I was hearing opinions from everyone, and some people, I didn't love it personally because I was the one bleeding all over the ring. But overall, in terms of the visual and in terms of the effect, I of course have an opinion about that. That's a positive one, and it's been really surprising to just see who quote unquote approved of it and who didn't. Not just fan wise, just peers, everything.
Were you surprised by the sort of the volume of response to it, and even now to this day, people still get bent out of shape about things like that? Do you think that is this just the internet just being the first bastion of outrage, or can you see why people have issues with it?
Oh, I can see why people have issues with it, and I think yes and no in terms of surprise. As soon as it happened, obviously I knew that people were going to talk about it, and that's...
Well, you hope people would talk about it, yeah.
Exactly, and I knew that there would be a certain amount of dialogue about it. However, particularly if you're familiar with my work in AIW, I am very, very frequently in... incredibly violent situations.
Yes.
So this wasn't anything new. The blood aspect of it maybe was new, but the whole scenario wasn't new. I think it got a lot of people talking. I think it got a lot of people to put their eyes on what we're doing there, and that's the whole point. And if you disagree with something, or if you don't like it, at least this is going to sound like this. I don't know if I'm wording this right, but you're talking about it and you're having a dialogue about it.
Yeah, it's true. I was going to say, as far as your position as being involved in a lot of violent situations in AIW, it seems that every few months there's a video comes out of you dying horribly in a wrestling ring, whether it be at the hands of Greg Iron or the Bateri was one in particular that was quite a hell of a bump, and there's one of you getting a pile driver from, was it Josh Prohibition or something?
Josh Prohibition, yes.
Yeah, but probably the most violent thing you've been involved with in AIW was getting curb stomped into a kiddie pool full of burgers.
Yes, that was horrible. That was horrific.
Please talk a little bit about this, because if I'm right, and I may not be, but you're vegan, aren't you?
Well,
or
right
vegetarian,
now,
at least.
Well, I've been vegetarian for 17 years now.
Wow.
So vegetarian for a lot longer than I've not been vegetarian. I was very hardcore vegan for 3 years, and now I continue to keep vegan. There are times where I'll just do vegetarian, but for the most part, vegan. So the point is that for about 17 years, no, I've not eaten meat, and certainly not a cheeseburger, and it's not something I would have eaten before anyway. But this was right after, this is at Absolution last year, so it was a year ago. It's right after Greg and I finally lost our tag titles to the Bateri, and they pulled a kiddie pool with a tarp over the top of it, which is, of course, a deathmatch staple. You never know what it's going to be underneath it. When they pulled it back, it turned out to be full of dollar cheeseburgers, full of it, unwrapped. And I was, curb stomped into them. And they were very much, I hate to pull back the curtain this much, but they were very much real cheeseburgers.
As a vegan, what's the biggest affront to that? Is it the fact that it's the cheese or the burger?
I think the burger would probably be number one, for sure. The cheese, again, I'm not really sure if it was even real cheese, because these were real cheap cheeseburgers as far as everyone told me afterwards. They couldn't even splurge for me. But no, they were definitely real.
Wow, that's pretty. It's pretty hardcore, I have to say. I don't even know where to go from that. I wanted to ask you about that question, but I just when you talk about getting kiddie stomped into burgers, I just like, well, that's the end of that.
I know.
We should finish it at that point. But go on.
I know where to go from this.
Go.
Okay, so we're talking about the horrendous hardcore aspect of being curb stomped into burgers. We're also talking about blood and violence and you getting your ass handed to you on a regular basis. But there are other ways that you are selling matches, because me and Stu talk about this, and I think you've got to be like the top 2 women in at least North America, maybe even the whole Western world, to be able to sell wrestling matches through your promos.
Well, thank you. I really, really, really appreciate that, because, I mean, obviously that's the point of a promo, is to sell a match and to sell a show and to sell a product. And I think sometimes people forget that or don't focus on that, but you can do it in an entertaining and compelling way. And that's something that, I really, really try to work on, because I think it's something that has fallen to the wayside a little bit, just in terms of like that. That used to be my favorite part of wrestling, watching people's promotional stuff. So it's something I really, really try to focus on and make interesting.
I think the one that you've got the ones with Greg, and they are ones that sort of stand out. But I think the ones that really caught myself and Stu's attention were the sort of back and forth you had with Alison Kay ahead of your Girls' Night Out match.
Yeah,
probably the
AIW
9 Lives promo. Yeah, that might be the one.
Yeah, the 9 Lives promo. And that was a funny thing. An AIW fan. I don't know even where this exactly started, but there was always these Veda won't die, as they started to warm to me a little bit more. Originally, they were a little bit more of a negative chant, wishing for my death or legitimate murder or that sort of thing.
Wow.
But someone came up with this idea of 9 lives. And it really it took on a life of its own, and it's become this organic thing, and I love it. And it's really worked well with Alison Kay, because she of course has the machete, and speaking of legitimate murder, could perpetrate a legitimate murder.
Well, Alison Kay is actually, I think, the other person that Lee was talking about when we sort of said about the top 2 people as far as doing promos. I mean, for both of you, like when I see a new promo coming up from either of you, it's like, oh, here we go. This is going to make me excited about something. But we don't see enough of that, and like you said, it's fallen by the wayside as a form of getting involved in wrestling, is doing promos. We've begged female wrestlers to try and do some more of this, and it seems like something that people don't feel comfortable doing. From somebody like yourself who has, I'm not going to say perfected it, but someone who's comfortable doing it, what advice would you give to a wrestler who's not comfortable doing promos or anything like that on YouTube, don't want to put themselves out there like that? How can people get over that initial hump of doing that and become someone who can actually sell tickets like this?
Right. Well, and as an aside, like, I'm no one, and this is just my advice coming from me as someone who does legitimately enjoy, being in front of a camera and talking. Like, it's something that I do enjoy. I hear this from people a lot, and especially as I've started to do a lot more commentary also as well, which I really enjoy. But I never really get it, because when you step back and think about what we do as wrestlers and what you're confident in doing in the ring, in your underwear, basically, like, that's a whole lot more exposure than standing in front of a camera and talking, which you do all day, every day. So I think it's just a matter of just getting over this idea of feeling exposed in front of a camera, and just focus on it the same way you would focus on preparing for a match or getting into that zone that you get in right before you wrestle. Because truly, everything that you do in a ring, I think, is just it's that same level of just bearing everything and being exposed in front of a camera. And people seem to be way less nervous about that, which I don't think you should be at all.
I don't mean to undercut the compliment that Lee gave you earlier, and I totally agree with it. But I mean, there aren't an awful lot of good female promos in the business at the minute, I don't think.
Oh God! Now that my compliment sounds like faint praise.
I know. I don't mean it like that. I genuinely mean, we do love your promos, but there are so many who aren't comfortable. I mean, did you have someone who gave you hints and tips as to how to do this? Did you have someone who you watched, a wrestler from the past, that you went, okay, I like that style, I'm going to try and emulate something like that? Is it something like that?
I think like in general, male and female right now, there's just not a lot of people who put themselves out there as much and kind of really work on that aspect of things. Let me think. Well, I mean, I'm a huge wrestling fan. You know, I've watched wrestling my whole life, so I've tried to just, you know, watch everything. But just in terms of like ECW wise, I was always a fan of more of like a conversational promo. Jimmy Jacobs does that really well right now in terms of like when you know, up the intensity when it really means something. But like this idea of like Raven used to do it too. But sort of these like conversational sort of things. If it's something that works for you and works for your personality, like for some people that just wouldn't work.
Arn Anderson would be another one.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like I can't really go out there and talk like the Ultimate Warrior. I mean, I could, but I don't think anyone would buy it. I don't know that anyone would buy into that. And I just I think it's a matter of like you develop your wrestling style and you develop what works for you in a ring, and it's the same way in terms of out of the ring and how you portray yourself. You know, when it's not a physical part of things, just having a grasp on that.
I think it might also come down to the fact that you know, you are pretty much your character. I mean, you know, with the volume turned up, that kind of thing. But you get other people maybe who come out there and aren't confident of who they are. So it makes it difficult to be able to try and convey what they want to say as this person because they're still trying to work out who they really are.
Right. I mean, I could see that too. But again, like if you can come up with what you are as a wrestler, this is just an extension of it. But again, like it's just. I always know, like some people are just going to be more comfortable with some things than with others. I mean, I'm a total ham. If you put a camera in front of me, like I'm going to be in front of that camera dancing and singing or whatever, and that's just been me my whole life. So if you're giving me a forum to speak, I will speak.
Excellent. That's why we've got you on the podcast. Fantastic. Yes. Fantastic. And hey, not only as far as his promos are concerned, but I mean, talking about people feeling comfortable in the ring as well, is AIW the place where you sort of first really got a handle on who Veda Scott, the in-ring character, is as well? Because that's the impression I got.
I think so, because really AIW, you know, I consider them to be my home in terms of it's someplace that I wrestle consistently month after month after month, and they continue to give me a forum month after month after month to learn and to evolve. And like you said, this thing that Greg and I have been going through for over a year, although there's been a lot of other things interspersed. You know, I had my issues with Allison Kay. We've had feuds with the Batiri. We haven't been, you know, fighting with each other the whole time, but there's been a consistency to it. And I think sometimes a lot of people aren't fortunate to have that in terms of just being able to kind of like have a canvas to kind of work on month after month after month and just see, you know, especially when you're as new as I am and as inexperienced as I am, as you're trying to just sort of figure out, like I keep saying, like what works for you and what you are. And when something doesn't work, being able to recognize like, okay, maybe I'm going to try something new. And having people who support that and get like AIW is great. It's fantastic. I wouldn't be anything that I am right now without them. I don't know if they would. I don't know if they would own up to any of that or take credit for me in any way if they would want to do that. But no. They've just been super supportive and super positive the whole time.
Did you get a bit from the beginning. Creative freedom then?
Yeah, I think so. I think AIW had just become a place where it's a lot of wrestlers who love to wrestle and love to just perform. For our crowd, but we also genuinely enjoy watching each other. I think that's a really unique aspect of that particular company. Like we really just genuinely enjoy supporting each other and watching each other as well. And you don't get that everywhere. I mean, like Shimmer's another place like that, for example. I mean, Ring of Honor also, but like in terms of just particular like just wrestling places where I wrestle consistently, like Shimmer has that same sort of feeling, you know, where like we're all just sort of watching each other, rooting each other on, and just supporting each other, and it's the best way to grow.
Correct me if I'm wrong here as far as this is concerned. The first place I ever saw you doing it, but was AIW the first place that had you as a heel?
I was that was me. I was a heel in my first match.
I suppose against Daisy Hayes, right?
Yes. Okay. I think in general that's sort of been how things played out. It's changed in the past year or so in general.
It has, yeah.
Yeah, and that's been really, really interesting that there are some very different sides of me in different places. And then, of course, in Shimmer, the tide has turned, and that shifted a little bit now in the past set of tapings. So everything is still completely out of alignment everywhere.
Oh, I mean, you went on to talk about that, and that was certainly something that we were going to talk about. And I loved that last time. I really enjoyed the sort of, the turn. I hated you at the time, as I should have, but it was like it was a very effective turn, and I was very happy to see that take place in Shimmer. I sort of really thought it freshened up you as a performer in Shimmer, and sort of opens up a whole bunch of opportunities for you going forward. It was just around the same time that you were kind of like, organically going back to the side of the Angels in AIW.
Yep.
What's your favorite sort of thing to do? Do you prefer being a heel or babyface?
Honestly, I don't know that I have a preference at this point. I'm pretty happy where I'm at in different places. I'm fortunate enough to get to wrestle a lot of different places, and in terms of like places that I work for consistently month after month, something like AIW or Shimmer or Ring of Honor, there's like mismatched alignments there. But I'm really happy, I think, the way that it's being supported and the ideas that are being thrown out there, and like the way that I'm being able to sort of portray what I want to portray. So I don't know that I have a favorite. I think I'm really fortunate to have the variety and to have the opportunity to kind of, explore both sides. I
think when we spoke to you the last time, you'd maybe done a Sparkle taping for Shimmer, maybe.
Possibly, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, obviously now you've been doing it for a couple more years. You've done a lot more tapings. You've had a lot more experience to work with people in singles, tag teams. You've worked with veterans. You've worked with younger girls. I mean, what's your sort of like favorite bit of your Shimmer experience so far?
I had a match with Tomoka Nakagawa that I really enjoyed. That was, I want to say, that was like a year and a half, 2 years ago, maybe. And I think that was one of my first like big, or not big, but like my first like singles opportunity. And I just really, really just enjoyed working with her and learning from her. And now that she's going to be retiring, like I'm really, really glad that we had a chance to be in a ring together. So I think that was a really significant one. Of course, wrestling with Shaza and tagging with Shaza was a huge thing for me. And that really just gave a new dimension to everything that I'm doing. And we legitimately love each other and are very close. So that's been great too. Like in the short time I've been in Shimmer, I've just had so many different opportunities to try different things. So that's been crazy.
Let's talk commentary, because you've got a chance to do commentary at Shimmer.
Yes.
Amongst other places, and we'll talk about some of the other places as well as we go. But I mean, talk to me about how that came about and how you've enjoyed sort of that experience of getting involved in wrestling from another perspective, telling the story from behind the mic.
Right. I really enjoy doing commentary. It's not something that I ever thought that I necessarily would be doing. And it's kind of, I'm trying to think, I'll be on shows and people like ask me to step in and do some commentary, but that just happens in general. Like wrestlers just cycle in and out of the booth. So that I'd done that before a match here or there. And then in Ring of Honor, about a year-ish ago, when they first brought back the Women of Honor division, and I was the interviewer at the time, what I did was I would do commentary with Kevin Kelly, for the and at the time it was Caleb Seltzer, for the women's matches. And that turned into a whole thing with me and Mischief, and there was wrestling involved. But originally it was commentary. And that was like my first taste of doing a quote unquote like real commentary recorded for television. And it turned out I really liked it, like a lot. Because like you said, it's a whole different way to tell a story and a whole different way to be creative. So that has evolved into me doing more commentary for Ring of Honor. I commentated the last Future of Honor show, or the first Future of Honor show, which is their student show. I've done commentary now for WSU. I've been doing commentary for Shimmer. I step into commentary on other shows, and it's been a whole new role for me to take on that I didn't expect. but really makes me excited about the possibility of doing more and more of it in the future. Because like you said, it's just a new way to tell a story and a new way to be creative, and I get to watch everything.
I mean, do you listen back to your to the commentary that you did at the very start and think, okay, this is what I was like then, and this is where I am now, and I can see how I've developed and changed in that sense, just like you would if you were maybe watching one of your early wrestling matches, for example.
Right. Well, I think originally I was doing more of like a straight play-by-play type of commentary because that's what was asked of me, and that's the other thing that's interesting with commentary. And you know this as any watcher of wrestling, that there's different kinds of commentators. There's play-by-play, there's color. Sometimes people are a little more biased than others depending on how the situation is. So trying to navigate that has been really challenging. And then recently, I've been more of like a color character-based commentator just because that's been what's appropriate for the situation. And that's been really fun to see, too, like that evolution from just being more of a straight play-by-play to more of like working in, telling a story.
You and Bryce Remsburg were chattering away so much at the WSU show that you both worked on that Mr. Denver, Colorado didn't get much of a chance to get in a word in edgeways. And he was meant to be the lead commentator.
Yeah, well, he kept stepping in and out of the matches because he had other things to deal with. So fortunately, he was giving us pretty free reign there. And I really enjoyed that experience. And I was thankful for WSU for giving me the chance to call, a whole show start to finish, which was just a unique experience. I had actually injured my knee the night before and was unable to compete. I was supposed to wrestle that night. And lucky for me, they gave me something else to do. That I really enjoyed, because otherwise I would have been really disappointed.
So that WSU Mutiny show, was that one of those like last minute things, like, okay, you're here, you can't wrestle, we'll put you on commentary?
I believe I had injured my knee the night before, and I've had recent history of knee issues, and so I talked to the owner of WSU that night, and I was like, listen, here's what's going on with my knee. I'm not sure that I can wrestle, but I don't know if I can have the match you want to have, like that conversation. So we all talked about it, and we decided that, the best thing would be for me to do commentary rather than push it on my knee, which actually turned out to be fairly injured once I was able to get it checked out. It has continued to be an issue. So it probably was a good thing that I didn't wrestle. But yeah, it was more of a last minute, like, decision at the show, like, can you actually call the whole show? And yeah, it worked out really well.
The thing about it was, I mean, Lee said earlier on, you guys were chattering away, and I really enjoyed the commentary on that show. I really did, because what was excellent about it was not only did you bring color to the whole show as far as the commentary, but you kept true to yourself as a character as well. I remember, like, for example, you guys were doing commentary on the mixed tag match, and Shanna and Chris Dickinson were doing their sleazy antics. and even then, like, even though you were kind of like, heel commentator type thing, even then you were still like, I am appalled. I can't stand this. This is ridiculous. I can't watch anymore. And that's what I really liked. It was like you didn't just blindly support the heels for everything. You stayed true to what your character would have said, and I liked that. I thought that showed an understanding sort of deeper than you might have necessarily expected, especially at the last minute.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing that's most challenging when I'm doing commentary is trying to remember, that, like, when you're a wrestler and you're in the ring, you're counting on the commentators to support you and to kind of understand what you're trying to do and what you're trying to get over, and fill in those blanks and make the full picture. Like, they're the narrators for the story, but you're the one who's telling the story. So it's a matter of, like, trying to, like, navigate that thing, like, hopefully the dialogues match up and everything works. So as a commentator who's also a wrestler, I think it's hard. It's challenging, but, like, I'm very mindful of the fact that, like, the people in the ring are counting on us to support what they're doing and, kind of just push everything along. And just try to be on board with that. And that's always hard. But you don't want to take away from what's going on in the ring either. Like, that's too.
Yeah, absolutely.
And just kind of, like, make everything into one, like, pretty package so that the commentary plays off the matches, but the matches are the focal point. Like, that's the key part, and keep everything together.
Speaking of Ring of Honor, you mentioned it a moment ago, and we had Cherry Bomb on the show recently, and we were talking to her about she had a couple of Ring of Honor matches in 2013, and we were
she had a couple of very good Ring of Honor matches in 2013.
Yeah, and we were just asking her, like, what was going on with the Women of Honor division, and I mean, she didn't really know. And I think probably you might be better placed to answer the question if anything is planned or anything is going ahead as far as like having any more women's wrestling as part of Ring of Honor at the minute.
I think it's one of those things that's always in discussion and always on the table. Obviously, it's not my decision.
No.
If there's women's wrestling, because I think we know what my decision would be. But we do have people within the organization who are very supportive of it. Maria Kanellis is one of them always. And I think a lot of people will discount, what her contributions would be because they're like, oh, she's not a wrestler. She is, first of all. And she's a great performer, and she's been super supportive of women and the Women of Honor and, pushing that back. So, I hear sometimes and I see sometimes, like, and this is just me, this is my own, like, personal thing here. I hear sometimes and I see sometimes, something, Ring of Honor, Maria Kanellis, what does she know about wrestling? Like, no, that is absolutely untrue. And I think that someone really needs to say that. Maria is incredibly supportive of the Women of Honor, of being part of the Women of Honor, and of Ring of Honor itself. So I think like that needs to be said very explicitly. However, I don't really know. I think it depends on, the climate of the roster and the company at any one point. Obviously, if all the cards are in place, we can, have access to top female talent in the world. Why not? But it's not as simple as that. It's not as simple as like making a phone call necessarily. Like there's a lot in play. But I don't know. There have been some Women of Honor matches filmed before shows recently, or at least as recent as February. And I don't really know exactly what's going to happen with that, but I know there's been plans for it. So it's something that's always under discussion and always there. Like there's never been like we are never doing women's wrestling in Ring of Honor again. This is it. Like that's never been said. I think it's something that's just a constantly evolving thing. Now, if it's between putting, just a random anybody women's match on a show versus taking the time to really cultivate a product that will be of a high quality, like, of course I would rather choose cultivating the high quality product, even as much as I would like to just see women's wrestling, whoever it is, on every show. Like, there's part of me that wants that.
Not whoever it is. Come on.
Well, but you know what I mean. Like, there's part of me that just wants to see a women's match on every show because it should be there, flat out. At least one. It just should be. There's no reason not to. However, at the same time, if it's between just putting a match out there for no reason, just to do it, versus trying to invest in something, then of course, like, I can support investing in something, and hopefully that comes to fruition.
Is it reassuring, though, that Ring of Honor and its training facility is still training up women who want to be wrestlers? Mandy Leon, for example, who's just starting out.
Well, I think they've always trained women and always accepted women. Most wrestling schools will. I think there are some places that have like programs specifically for women, and sometimes the training regimen at a school will be like specifically tailored towards what women think they need or want or need. For me, I think it's just best to just train just to train. But yeah, most of those, if you're listening and thinking about training, like, talk to the school near you. If it's a quality school, they should be able to take care of your needs. You're not like that special. Like you can just train. But yeah, so I think it's something that's always been there. Like, they continue to train women. There's lots of up and comers in the general area or on the scene in general. And again, it's not something that's ever been just completely taken off the table. Like, they never said there shan't be women's wrestling in Ring of Honor again. Like, that has never happened. It's just not something that's happening at this moment today, but it could happen, next weekend. Who knows?
Well, you're in the lucky position in Ring of Honor of not only being there for whenever there are any women's matches around, but you've also got your other sort of programs involved there as well. You're still involved with the New Streak and Artie Evans.
Yes.
What's it up to now?
Oh, gosh. Well, I haven't gotten the Streak telegram today, but we are definitely far, far into the hundreds.
Yeah, it's probably gone up a few since we started this podcast.
Possibly.
To be fair. And you've also had a little thing recently on, well, I say recently, maybe about a month ago or so, on Sinclair TV with Romantic Touch.
Yes. Yes, that was sort of a corollary of the new streak, but yes.
And in yet another storyline where a man has unrequited love for you in professional wrestling.
Yeah.
What's up with that?
There's never been any. How about there has never been any requited love for Veda Scott in professional wrestling?
No,
not even once. Not even once.
All these guys keep thinking they've got a chance, and you just, in the case of Romantic Touch, you kicked him in the balls.
Yeah, that happened.
That's not a particularly romantic touch, but never mind. Let's. Actually, before we move on, let's mention Future of Honor.
Yes.
You mentioned it briefly earlier. You done commentary in the first show. There's another show coming up July 27th.
Yes, this will be the second one, and it's an exciting project. It's in conjunction with Ring of Honor does these tryout/training camp seminars. They've been doing them every 3 or 4 months or so. So the next one for that is happening the weekend of the 26th and the 27th. The 26th, as I said, of course, I'll be in Cleveland for AIW for the Battle of the Sexes show. But the next day is the Future of Honor show, which is in Delaware. You can go to the Ring of Honor website for all the details for that. But anyway, these shows are in conjunction with these seminars, and these tryout seminars are a way for professional wrestlers to get looked at by Ring of Honor, but also to train for 2 days with, I believe this upcoming one has the Briscoes, Adam Cole, Bobby Fish. Of course, Delirious is always there, Kevin Kelly. These are top talent, top officials with Ring of Honor, not just observing you if you're looking for an opportunity, male or female. This is not just open to men, male or female. Not just observing you in terms of for opportunities, but giving critiques and you're learning. And it's a full 2-day learning experience. And then the culmination of that this time, and I suppose in the future, will be a show that's happening in Laurel, Delaware, deep in Briscoe country. And it's a Future of Honor show. And if you are familiar with the first Future of Honor show at all, it was a show that was pitting Ring of Honor, regulars and Ring of Honor talent versus sort of these up-and-coming people, maybe students who have been training at the Ring of Honor dojo or other people looking for opportunities in professional wrestling. It's promising, top promising talent. And then this next one is that same sort of concept.
So it's you and Jenny Rose versus
Yes.
Hanaya, the Howling Huntress, and
Mandy Leon.
Mandy Leon as well. I mean,
yes.
I guess this is kind of indicative of just what you were talking about there.
Yeah, Mandy trained through the Ring of Honor dojo. Hanaya also trains there as well. Jenny Rose and I, of course, came through there and continue to train there. So it's that. Yes, it's a very homegrown product. And this is coming off a match that happened at the last Future of Honor show as well. So it's a tag team match. Women of Honor sponsored, if we're looking for the Women of Honor, sponsored tag team match. It's very exciting. But other matches on the show will pit Ring of Honor, other Ring of Honor talent versus students versus people who are looking for opportunities. So it's a really exciting way to just see, what's out there in terms of, new people. Maybe you've kind of, I think everyone on these shows are people that you've maybe heard of but not seen in terms of like the up and coming talent. So it's a great way to get exposed to people as well. And it's huge opportunities for everyone involved.
I guess that throws back to what Stu was saying at the start about you being the grizzled veteran, because technically in this match you are.
Well, technically Jenny Rose is the grizzled veteran in this match, but I'm like second or something. But anyway, the whole idea behind it is this is just, us having a match against Mandy Leon, lost to Jenny Rose at the last Future of Honor show. However, she slapped her during the match, which I felt was very disrespectful. And I expressed that as I was on commentary and encouraged Jenny to also express her frustrations, and she did so by clotheslining her, laying her out, and we laughed at her and left. And
anybody would have done the same thing.
Exactly.
Damn these cocky upstarts.
Exactly. And then so she has enlisted Hanaya, who is an incredible talent, and just sort of in the process of reinventing herself, to be her tag team partner. And so we are going to have a match on July 27th in Laurel, Delaware.
Excellent. There's something that occurred to me as you were talking about Ring of Honor and their their women's division, and you were talking about whether or not just having one random match here and there or having a proper division and so on. And it occurred to me that there's something going on down in Texas at the minute called Inspire Pro.
Yes. Inspire Pro is a really, really exciting wrestling company, and I will talk about them all day long.
We've got ours.
I was fortunate enough to be on one of their shows last May, where I wrestled Athena. What they have is called the XX division. It's their women's division. And they also are fortunate enough to have Barbie Hayden, who I know you guys are all big fans of, working for them and representing the NWA as a world women's champion. She defends the title there in these huge main event matches, women's matches, main event matches. So they have that, like that's a huge get to have Barbie there defending her title. She's defending against Mia Yim at the next show, which is a huge match that's never happened before and going to be awesome. I'm not on this particular show, but I'm excited to see it. But then elsewhere on the show, they have, I believe, three or four other matches featuring female talent.
I think there might be 5 women matches
featuring women's talent, and it's not because like, oh, we have to fill a quota. It's because, well, these are the talents that we want to use, and these are the matches that are going to be good. And that's something that Texas has been good at for a long time, particularly the Austin, Texas region. There's a number of different companies, but it's really great to see. It's a company that I support wholly and fully. I'm just excited to see what they're doing down there.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, ACW have obviously got a history of promoting and using female talents and having multiple female matches on one show. But I saw the last show. I haven't seen the show yet; it's not out yet. But I saw the results and I thought, oh, that's interesting. And it was the Mia Yim and Barbie Hayden match that really sort of fired my imagination for this show. Mm-hmm. And it was the whole concept that sort of appealed to me of it's pretty much just a 50-50 split of men's matches and female matches. Right. And I was able to watch the whole rest of the show, the Inspire show that I was at. And they were the whole show top to bottom was just exciting talent. Like some people I think that maybe have been more, exclusive to Texas. But they're great, and these are shows that people should be watching. So I'm hoping, just because we find in general fans of women's wrestling or particular women in wrestling, just in general seem to be more willing to go out there and support a product and buy a product, and that's great. So I'm hoping that if you're a huge Mia Yim fan, you'll buy this show to see her awesome match with Barbie Hayden, but then you'll see all these other women and all these other and male talents on the show. And just get exposed to that. So it's just it's a great concept just to keep presenting these female matches. I'm sure they'll do intergender stuff too. That would not surprise me at all. As just not like, oh, we're a women's show. Oh, we're a men's show. No, we just do good wrestling, and these are the top talents we want to use. Some of them happen to be female. Yeah, I said exactly the same thing to Lee just recently. We were talking about it. I was saying I want to see this Barbie Hayden Mia Yim match, and the fact is that then I will get to see a bunch of female talents and male talents, but in the case of Ring Bells related people, some female talents that I kind of have heard of, but I don't really know much about. Right. So that's exactly the whole point, and that does appeal to me. It's a nice way of being able to see some new people.
And I mean, there's just, I'm sure you've heard this from other people who are out there, trying to wrestle. Like, I was trying to do so-and-so show, but they already have a girls match. And it's like, is that really what it should be? Like, you filled the girls match quota. Do you have good matches? Like, do you have good wrestling? Did you fill your good match quota? Because maybe you want to look into having 2 quote-unquote girls matches or none. It just, yes, women's wrestling will always, to a lot of people, be a special attraction. It'll always be a gimmick to a lot of people. I get that. But if you're willing to have people, and AIW does the same thing, like there are times where they'll have more than one women's match on a show, or there'll be an intergender match and a women's title match, and then maybe just another women's match. Like it's not a matter necessarily of like, oh, we filled our girls match quota. No, it's a matter of we want to have, interesting stories and good matches, and use the talent that, that we believe in. So to see things like that happen is just really exciting. It's an exciting time to be a wrestler.
If only there was a T-shirt out there which kind of portrayed the message that great wrestling knows no gender.
Right, yes,
yeah.
Yes.
Maybe that exists somewhere. ringbellsonline.com/shop.
Nice. Hey, you tweeted recently, Veda, about the possibility of going to Europe soon.
Yes, I did tweet that.
It was very vague, other than, ooh, maybe I should. I put two and two together. I may have got five, but is this in relation to the upcoming Ring of Honor sort of shows in November in conjunction with Preston City Wrestling?
Honestly, it is not.
Really?
I wish I could say that. I wish I could say that it was.
Okay.
I am not part of those particular shows. I wish I could say I was. That would be awesome. But it's definitely a company that I follow and I'm interested in working with. And who knows? Like, I do want to go over, and I do want to I want to wrestle everywhere. But in particular, I think my next goal is to go over and wrestle in Europe. So it's something that is in process all the time, and I'm always looking into. But yeah, no specific date to announce yet.
Mm-hmm. Any idea when anything might be
Nope.
public? Nope. Okay,
Nope.
fair enough.
No.
Maybe when you're on your travels to Europe, you'll have a wacky transport story of some sort.
I think if I'm in a little other country, I'll have some sort of wacky transport story.
Yeah,
Probably.
fine. Because we come to that part of the show, ladies and gentlemen, where the last few shows we ended up having a wacky road story, and I'm putting you on the spot, Veda. I'm saying to you, have you got a wacky road story for us?
What was I was trying to think of like a wacky foreign road story. I can do a wacky maybe Canadian road story. I think I have that. Okay. I don't know why I just thought of this. It's semi-recent. It's not really a wacky story, but it's a little road story. So it was me and a bunch of guys going to Toronto to wrestle for Smash, which is another great company that I love, and they do good women's wrestling too.
They do.
They have their Can USA Classic. They're going to be doing another one of those upcoming. I don't think they've announced the date yet.
You
but
and the Kimber Bombs representing the USA.
I believe so. Yes, I think.
Excited about that.
American by default, Jerry.
By marriage. By marriage, yeah.
By marriage, yes. By marriage, yes. Yes, she's married in.
I mean, she's not allowed to drink Tim Hortons anymore.
We've taken her onto our side. But anyway, we were going to Toronto to wrestle from Cleveland, and we go and we have the show, and it's great. And the way that this company happens to structure a lot of their shows, that there'll be a WWE pay-per-view is shown afterwards in the sports bar next door. Everybody stays and hangs out. Now it's winter. And we can see that it's starting to snow. And so logically, we're like, oh, we should probably leave, but we didn't leave. So we stayed and we watched this pay-per-view, whatever it was. It may have been the Royal Rumble. I think it was the Royal Rumble. We watch. And then someone comes up and says, hey, guys, we got the Whirlyball court. Now, Whirlyball, if you're not familiar with it, and you may not be, is a beautiful, beautiful game, which is basically bumper cars in teams. And it's a mixture of bumper cars and lacrosse. So you have like these nets in your hand, sort of scoop things that look like lacrosse nets, but they're more like scoops. And you're in bumper cars and you're flipping a wiffle ball between your teammates and you're trying to hit a target. It looks like a basketball backboard. Yeah, that's Whirlyball.
Oh my God, I want to play this now.
Yeah, it's an amazing experience. Anyway, so they have it at the one building that Smash runs frequently. So we were told that we were going to be allowed to play Whirlyball like as much as we wanted to. So exciting. So we're like, well, screw this. We're not going back to America until we get a few rounds of Whirlyball. And we're all like deliriously tired already. And we have to drive back and we have to cross the border. And I think I had done a show in like Pittsburgh or something the day before. So like I probably hadn't slept. We go and we're playing Whirlyball, and we were going hard on Whirlyball. We are not very good at Whirlyball because there were some Whirlyball ringers on the other team. Professional Whirlyball players, basically. So we're playing and we're having fun. And like every so often we'll kind of look outside and it's snow. It's really bad. Like it's not to like give a stereotype, but like we're in Canada in winter and it's snowing and it's bad. We still have to leave. So eventually, we finished this Whirlyball that we just had to play. We play over 2 hours of Whirlyball, stupidly.
Jesus.
And I need to emphasize the Whirlyball because it's critical to realize, like, for virtually nothing, we almost died. Not to spoil the rest of the story, but anyway, we get our Whirlyball in. We pile into the car, and the weather is bad. It's not good. So we're kind of making it. At one point, we almost run out of gas. Like that's That's unrelated. That's just our stupidity. We almost run out of gas. There's 4 of us in this car. We make it to the border. We cross the border. And for some reason, as soon as we cross, I guess this really isn't a Canadian story anymore, into upstate New York, the weather is just like, we can't, it's the worst snow I've ever seen to drive in. We can't see, like 0 visibility. We're on this highway. And we're going at almost no miles an hour, no cars anywhere. Occasionally, a truck will come through with the horn blaring. And that's it. That's all there is. All cars are off the road. We're trying to like figure out if they're going to shut the road down because it was that kind of weather, 0 visibility. At one point, it got so bad that we had to roll the driver's side window down so that the driver could stick his head out of the window in order to see. Horrifying, just the worst weather ever. We're sliding around. We can't see if we're, on a cliff. We can't see anything. We can't see exits. We are making 0 progress, but we can't pull over because if we pull over, we're going to get hit by a truck. Like, that's the scenario we're in now. We're all going to die. And we're just so deliriously tired that we don't understand our own mortality. So we're just laughing about this. But legitimately reflecting on it like later that day or night, and it's also the middle of the night, we realized, like, yeah, legitimately we could have died. The window is open. There is snow now pouring into the car. The guy in the passenger seat, it's in his face, in his beard. Finally, we decide, all right, maybe we should admit that we can't drive in this. We're going to have to get a hotel. Now, our lives are at risk. We legitimately could die. We're in Gowanda, New York, by the way. I still have the weather in Gowanda, New York in my phone. Because at the time it was just like white out, negative 15 degrees. We're going to have to get a hotel. And we stop. And we look at each other. And we still decide that none of us is putting in more than $20 each for this hotel. We don't care.
Wrestlers.
So we coast off the highway. We managed to find like a Days Inn or something. They send me in, of course, because I'm the damsel in distress, to see if I can get some sort of a deal. At this point, it's a guy at the desk, an abandoned hotel. He's like, my boss isn't even coming in. We go in, we finally get a room. He's putting out the continental breakfast. We clear that out. We sleep for, a few hours until finally we're able to drive again. Like the snow stops enough that we can actually get back on the highway. But yeah, like looking back on it, it was a very dangerous situation. And had that hotel been more than we were willing to put out, no, we would not have stayed there. We would have probably kept driving. We'd be dead. And the thing is, the worst part is the trip from where we were going back to Cleveland is like 5 hours. It's not bad. It's like 5 hours. It took us an extra day. But it's not a crazy road story, but it was a foreign road story. It had a happy ending of nobody died, but we nearly died. I don't have any like hooker stories. I've never had a dead one in my trunk.
Oh,
anything like that.
You should ask that question in all future podcasts.
What, hooker stories?
Yeah, tell us about your dead hooker and see.
For a good road story for me would have to. It seems like it should involve a prostitute at least. I don't know.
I think we should ask that question. Tell us the story about the dead hooker. See which person goes, oh yeah, that's a terrible story.
How did you know about that?
Yeah. How did you know this? Excellent. Veda Scott, ladies and gentlemen. Fantastic. Okay, let's close things up then with a quick recap, if we will. We've got AIW's Battle of the Sexes coming up July 26th. Is it Turner's Hall, Cleveland again?
Yes.
Pink Cage, lots of intergender wrestling, but headlined by Veda Scott versus Greg Iron in a 15-foot high steel cage. We've also got the Future of Honor show the day after, July 27th. Where can people see that geographically?
It's in Laurel, Delaware, which is southern Delaware. If you go on the Ring of Honor website, there's card and ticket information, and then eventually they release it as a VOD on the site, which you can stream like all the other Ring of Honor shows. And presumably it becomes a DVD. I'm not sure, but I would assume.
And what else? What else have you got sort of coming up in the medium term? Any plans other than this Europe trip?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of other shows coming up. AIW runs monthly, so I'm generally always there. I don't think I've missed a show in quite a while. AIW, I have Ring of Honor shows. I have other independent wrestling shows popping up in here and there. There's the Femme Fatale show is coming up in Montreal. I'll be there in August. There's a lot of good stuff coming up, and of course, we're coming back up to that women's wrestling season is going to be happening, I'm sure, again as shows start piling up. So yeah, it's really exciting. I have a bunch of really cool stuff. Some of it's not quite been finalized or announced in terms of like them announcing dates. So I won't get into that, but it's all good stuff. There's a lot of fun wrestling happening right now all over the world, all over the country.
We forgot to talk about Gail Kim.
Oh yeah,
Let's finish up with that. You were part of the Knockouts Knockdown 2 pay-per-view tapings earlier this year. It's not yet been on pay-per-view. I'm not sure. Do we have a month yet as to which month this is going to air?
Not a specific month. No,
I don't think they have one.
They released like a preview for it, but they film a lot of specials at once. So then it's a matter, I'm sure, of just distributing them over time. And I think the last one they did. They filmed and then it came out, several months later. Yeah.
But you were on this one and you wrestled Gail Kim. How was that?
That was an incredible experience. She's just the best. And just to be in the ring with her and learning from her was just completely invaluable. And it's a match that I just really, really enjoyed the experience. I have absolutely nothing negative to say about my experience at all that day. I had a great time. It was just learning and listening to everyone, but just being around in that environment. I don't want to get into like super details, especially because the show hasn't been released. But no, I've nothing negative at all to say about my experience that day at all. It was great.
Excellent. All right. Well, we'll keep an eye out for that when it comes out. I think the last one might have been.
September,
I was going to say September last year, so possibly September this year.
Yeah, it was definitely a few months.
Excellent. All right, no problem. Well, listen, thank you very much for coming back on the show and being a good sport with your Wacky Road story and making us laugh.
Maybe next time I'll think about it and have like a real. I don't know.
I'm putting out the call.
I'm going to pick up a hitchhike. The thing is, too.
If you pick up a hitchhiker and kill them, so you can have a story for us, that's a bit extreme.
Travel a lot, but I end up traveling alone a lot just because my schedule is kind of weird. So there's like a lot of wacky, like I don't have as many wacky like road trip stories. It's usually like me and my music and sleeping in my car. Like that's not real wacky.
Hopefully not while the car's moving.
Yeah, well, usually while it's moving, I just coast it. I just take these 10-second naps. I'm good. I don't do that. I don't really do that. That's not real.
Yeah, it's quite. Yeah. But, if you start picking up hookers just to kill them, just so you get a story for us in a couple of years' time, that's probably a bit much. But
yeah, like next time I'm in a car with people, just like, we just need to pick up a hitchhiker.
Mm-hmm, yeah. I'm putting the call out to all female wrestlers coming on this show. Get your Wacky Road Trip stories ready. Fantastic. All right. Once again, Veda, thank you very much. And good luck with the steel cage and all that.